Hi, my name is Shatakshi and welcome to my channel. I'm in this beautiful location and I thought of actually shooting a video for all of you on a very interesting topic. So it was my 30th birthday last week, and while I was reminiscing over a lot of interesting things that have happened over the last 10 years, there was one key thing that really stood out for me, which was about my focus on skills, my focus on building a network in the last 10 years. And I thought that there are a couple of students, there are a couple of young professionals who are in their early or mid 20s who would want to probably take a leaf from my book, and here's my book where I have collected top 10 skills that you would want to learn in your 20s. So let's start with point number 1. So this entire list has actually been structured, oh my god, I am still a consultant at heart, into 3 parts. One are hard skills, second are soft skills, and last is a very bonus point, which is going to be the 10th lesson. So let's start with the hard skills, right? So when it comes to hard skill, the number 1 skill that I have learned is how to conduct a data analysis. Boring, right? But it is one thing that I have been absolutely crazy about. In fact, as the co-founder of Global Governance Initiative, today when we solve problems, I actively go back to Excel, put in data there, apply a lot of Excel formulas, apply a lot of Excel functions, and ta-da, we have the data analysis. It's one skill that I have very, very actively learned, cherished, and applied to successfully climb the ladder and in fact get jobs. A lot of job interviews today have a stage whereby you are given data. In fact, during my interviews at St. Stephen's College, in fact few of them at ISB, they have a stage whereby you're given data and you apply that data analysis. So that's point number 1. Point number 2 is how to analyze processes. So this may get a little bit more technical, but most of the problems are actually operational in nature. So what do I mean by operations, or what do I mean by processes? Processes basically, how do you move from point A to point B to point B to point C? Is there a way, or is there a scope of moving from moving point A to point C directly? So do you have the skill set to take a step back when you are actually amidst noise, amidst a lot of chaos, amidst a lot of messiness, to step back and probably on a pen and paper and eventually on a PPT or eventually on Excel, draw the beautiful process down? At GGI, I have been extremely focused on building processes and building efficient processes. So if you're someone who wishes to have a career in public policy advisory, consulting, product management, this skill will come really very handy to you. My third hard skill is going to be about structuring problems. I cannot emphasize enough how helpful that skill has been for me till date, in fact, to crack job interviews, to survive jobs, and in fact to stand out amidst my peers in meeting rooms as well. Typically, people get overwhelmed or intimidated when they are actually bombarded with information, when they are in a new ecosystem, when they're trying to solve new problems, or they're trying to solve legendary problems where there is so much more data, right? In that instance, it becomes really very handy that you know how to structure things down. I am not just sharing 10 lists or 10 bullet points with you. I chose to actually share 3-point structure with all of you. How does that help? When the video gets over, you would be able to recall the structure. You would be able to take action points on the structure. Okay, I know after the Shatakshi's video that I need to do 2 things on hard skills, 2 things on soft skill, and the last one, of course, we'll release towards the end. So that's about breaking down problems and actually having structures for complex and even simple problems. It just makes life very manageable, very clean, and in a very neat fashion. Because I have a notebook, of course, I'm going to open my notebook to refer what are the other points I have. Moving back to now soft skills. The number 1 soft skill, of course, has to be about communication, and I'm not talking about just confident communication. Typically, people think when, hey, Shatakshi or other business leader is talking about having good communication, is the art of speaking fluent English. That's garbage. When I say having sharp communication, I mean the art of speaking very briefly and in structure, 2 points or 3 points. I cannot emphasize the beauty of this point. When you're dealing with CXOs, when you're dealing with really top leaders, they are less on time because they're dealing with gazillion things in those same 24 hours that you have. That means that even though you want to actually land upon your point, they would politely say, hey, I hear you and I will get back to you. Unfortunately, it doesn't really happen like that. That means your career is actually in your own hands. This means that I would highly advise, before you reach out to the next interviewer or to your boss or to any business leader for an opportunity, figure out 3 points in which you would want to speak. And mind you, 3 points can go on for an hour, and that's not the point is. 3 points help you make sure that you're talking at a structure level, in a MECE level, and you control where do you want to stop, right? A good I would say ballpark number is somewhere around 40 seconds to 50 seconds. I think there should be no monologue. I've always made sure, I know this is a video, but when we take master classes at GGI, even at my career at Tony Blair Institute, where I was a public policy advisor, I've always taken pauses. I have gauged the reactions and checked if they had any questions. That makes sure that it's a dialogue and not a monologue. I can understand that a lot of you may be like, hey Shatakshi, we know the 3-point McKinsey formula, but guess what? I've taught this to more than 1,000 people, and they always come back, and when they're trying to probably tell me why they're not able to get a job, they actually narrate their pain points for 30 minutes. If they're narrating their pain points after teaching them that you need to talk in 3 points for 30 minutes, that means it's a skill that takes practice. That when I was in St. Stephen's College, I gave my friends a lot of pain. I told them, hey, I'm going to be talking in 3 points to all of you. I gave my family members, my parents, my partner a lot of grief that I'm going to be just talking 3 points with you. But that has actually brought out, that support in fact has actually brought out a lot of crispness whenever I talk in front of business leaders, or even when I'm taking master classes. So number one soft skill, if I were to recommend to you in your 20s, would have to be around sharp communication and definitely structured communication, which brings us to the next point. The next one is a really beautiful point, which is about listening. A lot of people actually talk about, hey, let's be a great communicator. I know that in the previous point, I myself talked about being a great communicator. But the best communicators, not good ones, not mediocre ones, the best communicators are the ones who can listen well, who can listen very patiently, who have the art of just understanding things with a lot of empathy, and probably ask a lot of follow-up questions, just being after curious. A lot of people I know listen just to respond, and while you are listening to them, you're probably thinking, hey, what should I say next? What should I ask next? Just listen. You have no idea how many gazillion doors have been opened for me just because I listened well, and I have actually attentively paid focus on my listening skills as well. It's a skill that you can nurture. It's not something that comes naturally to you. In fact, all the soft skills, all the hard skills, your personality is malleable. People typically think, hey, I'm just an extrovert, or I'm just an introvert. When I was an undergrad, I was a hardcore extrovert, if I were to be extremely honest with all of you. But today I'm an ambivert. It's because I have actively paid focus to actually build upon my listening skills. So that's the latest skill that I would want you to build in your soft skills. I guess we are on a list of 5, and we'll move on to the 6th one, which is again really favorite. How to win friends, how to build friendships, how to build relationships. Making friends is hard, especially in the virtual zone, right? And that's why I thought there is some small animal in the bushes, but never mind, coming back. So have you ever felt that you are alone in an organization? Have you ever felt that I wish I had more friends? Making friends is a lot about giving than just taking back values. What do I mean by just giving values? Typically people think that, hey, I just met this big shot guy, let me extract value. Hey, I just met this guy, let me just extract value. Friends are not made like that. Friends are typically made when you actively pay focus to helping others. When you help others, eventually those people, in fact many others, will come back and help you as well. So that's the 6th pointer. I think that's where we are in terms of your skills that you want to learn in your 20s. Opening my diary once again for all of you. How to manage those relationships. This one I think I learned after I hit my 25th or 26th birthday, and I realized that, hey, I'm actually building some really good relationships after working with these really big people. How do I manage those relationships? Relationships typically have phases, right? There is an active phase, there is a passive phase. Now that you're outside of the organization, now that you're outside of that academic curriculum, how do you manage relationships? One small hack, if I were to share with all of you, is as cliche as it may sound, wish them Diwali, wish people happy birthday, it goes a long way. I know a few people who wish me happy birthday consecutive 5 years in a row, and I know their faces, I know their names by heart. That means if you reach out to people, even though it may sound very cliche on happy birthday, happy Christmas, happy Halloween, it will go a long way. And that's one of the easiest ways in which you can actually manage relationship with relevant people with whom you have actually spent time, and they have actually spent time with you as well. So that's the latest soft skill I would want you to learn in your 20s. Next one has to be around lovely, how to convince people. It's a skill that of course I picked up during my late 20s, so 28, 29. Of course you can pick it up early. The earlier you pick up negotiation skills, the better. And when I say negotiation skills, people typically think of, hey, I want to negotiate my salary. In fact, negotiating salary is never done in a negotiation way. It is always done in a request way. And those are different topics that, for example, we treat very differently in a management communication masterclass at GGI. But what do I mean by negotiation? I mean by negotiation, for example, how do you convince someone that this is a good idea? How do you convince someone that you should be part of a team? Or how do you convince someone that you should be part of an organization or a startup? These things require a lot of rational, at the same time a lot of emotions. People forget that emotional question or bringing out emotions, authentic emotions in conversations, the best way in actually with which you can win arguments, or you can get your dream job. So that's the 8th pointer that I have in soft skills that I would love to recommend you if you are building skills in your 20s. The 9th pointer is about a very professional space, which is upward management. People typically think that I want to become this leader, I want to become this boss, but they really miss out on the component of, typically in your 20s you're reporting to someone else, and you have a hard time probably with your boss or with your manager. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of emotional question, a lot of bond, a lot of, I would say, time to build that bond with your boss and manager so that you don't hate your job, you don't hate your team. I would highly advise, for if you are struggling in that arena, to focus on the skill. How do I upward manage? People typically talk about downward managing. Hey, you are this leader, how do you become this leader? You're a leader, you're a boss. But guess what? Typically in 20s people don't get so much opportunities. I got my first opportunity to lead when I was 26, but before that I was just upward managing. And even when I became a project manager, I was managing the chairman of Quality Council of India. That is upward management. That's how you actually call managing. So you upward manage and you downward manage. Knowing how to upward manage is a brilliant skill to have in your career to have a very smooth 20s. And that brings me to my 10th pointer, which is the bonus lesson, which is something that is the trickiest one, but is the thing that will take you places. So last thing that I want you to learn in your 20s is how to learn. How to learn. Learning is a skill. Learning is also an art. Till date, I'm this curious, hungry child who wants to learn. For example, shooting this video, right? There was this standee that I wanted to hold my camera on. I went on internet and learned for 15 minutes how to get this. At the same time, I'm new on Twitter. I'm just figuring out how to learn Twitter. My parents didn't know for a very long time how to use WhatsApp. 5 to 6 years ago, they legit sat with me and learned how to learn. So how to learn is a mindset. And if you can build that, if you can nurture that, and if you can excel that, you would be going places and nobody would be able to stop you. That's it from my side. These are the 10 skills that I want you to focus on, and these are my advices to you to build upon in your 20s. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please take care and stay safe. Bye.